About 5 seconds. Hey, what's going on, good folks? Once again, you are bluesing. We're talking about the blues. Coming to you straight from New York City. The Google Hangout. Remember, I know you're used to the podcast, but we are on the live Google Plus Hangout. And I got my man, Todd, owner of Old Dogs Records. Now, Jeff,
Hey, how you doing there?
What's going on, brother? I think I'm going right into it. Now, you're from a lot of places. Old Dog Records is what's Old Dog Records' home base?
Well, Old Dog Records was conceived actually while I was in Hardy, Arkansas 3 years ago. It was conceived from Thomasville, Georgia, and we still today are incorporated out of Georgia. So, you can say that the corporation is out of Georgia, actually right now, Claxton, Georgia, where a lot of my family is, and then the main corporate office from my partner, Lisa D. Mayer, is in Long Island, up there, Long Island, New York. And the day-to-day operations are really based out of wherever I'm at. And right now, I'm on the Mobile Bay. I'm on vacation. And
Alabama?
Yes, sir. Southern Alabama, on the coast, down here at Foley in Gulf Shores, Alabama.
Shout out to Sam Hugress, the owner of Paris Blues out here in Harlem, New York. He's from Alabama too.
All right, man.
And my man Joshua, he's a blues vocalist living in Harlem now. He's from Alabama. Go ahead.
All right. But so, no, I'm on vacation, and I'm actually on vacation until January.
That's a long vacation, my friend.
Well, I do it almost every year. I'm back in no matter where I'm at all year long, I'm back in the South for the holidays. For Thanksgiving is my holiday.
Dig it.
Okay. Christmas is really for children. So it don't really matter. It don't matter a whole lot where I'm at for Christmas, but come Thanksgiving, I'm going to be Alabama, Georgia, Florida every year. Or like last year, I was in Jersey and New York, spending it with my business partner, Lisa, and their family up there in Brooklyn. So this year, I'm down in the South. And then next year, I might be back up there again. I'm not really sure. It all depends on, what really pulls me is, we got a lot of family in New Orleans. Yeah. Which I think is your hometown, ain't it?
My daddy's hometown, yes, indeed.
Your daddy's hometown.
Yeah, he was born.
And there's a real.
I spent a lot of time out there. Man, my grandmother. Well, that's a long story, but yeah, that's my daddy loved Orleans, and so do I.
Yeah.
Georgia. I love Georgia. I've been Fort Valley, Georgia. I love. But before we go into all of the South that we appreciate, and before we go into Old Dogs Records,
okay,
let's talk about your blues journey.
My blues.
Yeah. Let's do it. When did your blues journey start, man?
I was born in Daytona Beach, Florida. I'm a Florida cracker. They call Florida people born and raised, they call Florida crackers. If you're from Florida, born and raised, you're what they call a Florida cracker. Okay? It don't matter if you're white, black, Puerto Rican, Mexican, Italian. If you're from Florida, you call it a cracker. Okay? And the blues for me started with country music radio, and it was Hank Williams.
Okay.
It was Hank Williams, because they always used to say that, Hank Williams moaned the blues. They didn't say Hank Williams moaned country. They didn't say Hank Williams moaned this. I'm talking about Hank Williams Jr.'s daddy. Okay. growing up in the 50s, in the 60s in Daytona Beach, it was country music. And I got my first taste of the blues actually through one of the children of the blues, which is country music and rock and roll, was from country. And I grew up as a surfer boy and a commercial fisherman, yes, in Daytona. And so commercial fishing was just the way to go. And I started picking up guitar back around 78, 79 at 17, 18 years old, and was playing like John Cougar, Bob Seger, Jimmy Buffett, Hank Williams. And my buddy, down in the Florida Keys, I was working on a commercial lobster boat down there. Wow. And my buddy goes, "You like picking them notes, don't you? Bending them strings." I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, you need to learn rhythm." And I go, "Okay." So I learned how to play rhythm guitar. And then another buddy of mine goes, "You need to learn how to play scales." So then that's what really, it's probably a year later, you know. And that's what really, it just started sustaining the notes and playing really the blues, you know, what I was. That's my blues journey.
Which country music is the blues?
Which country music is the blues, you know. And so that's kind of how, you know, and when I first started singing and playing, I was doing all the cover band stuff like, you know, a lot of the other bands do. You know, Levon Helm from the band says in order to originate, you must not intimidate, but I can't remember the word right now. But it means you must copy. In other words, what he was saying was you have to learn your heroes first before you can do your own stuff.
Before you find your own place.
Yeah, before you can find your own place. So I started out doing all the MTV rock and roll stuff, you know. Yeah. And then it slowly took me back, you know, to the blues. And then I just wanted people to hear and like my own songs. And that's what got me into as far as the Jeff Todd Blues Band goes. And that's basically, you know, where it started. I'm self-taught. And then I did spend a good 4 or 5 years going from Florida not only to Nashville learning the business end of it, but learning to go into Mississippi after a little altercation I had down there in Clarksdale about 9 years ago. And you want me to tell you that story real quick?
Share the story. Come on, baby, share the story.
Well, we were one of the first bands to play the Ground Zero Blues Club.
Really?
In Clarksdale, yeah. And in fact, one of my clients today, Big T, Terry Williams,
okay,
was working the sound and all that there. He was one of the ones I do believe that booked us.
Wow.
And
so is he a client or is he on your label?
Well, anyone on my label's a client.
Okay. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, he's on my, yes, Big T, Terry Williams is on my label, all 100%. So we got into Clarksdale at late, okay, out of Memphis. And the next night we had to be, I remember it vividly, in Baton Rouge, and then into New Orleans, and then off to Houston, and then the West Coast. But we got into Clarksdale late. Excuse me.
My uncle's in Baton Rouge right now. We speak. Go ahead.
Oh, I love Baton Rouge and Shreveport. I love that. I love Louisiana. So we got in late. We set up and we played. We played 2.5 or 3 sets. It was 1:30, 2 o'clock by the time we got done. And there was this old black man sitting there, right there by the stage, in between the men's bathroom and the women's bathroom, that never changed his expression for the entire time. And I swear to God, I know he's passed by now. And I got off stage and I go, I don't know who he was. I never caught his name. But when I walked off the stage, I was real cocky. I was real fast on guitar. And I go, how'd you like that, Pops? And he motioned me down like this because he didn't want to yell.
Right.
And I tipped my hat back, and he goes, boy, you don't know a damn thing about the blues.
Ooh.
Yeah. And that bothered me, Lamont, for like 3 years.
I could imagine.
Okay, so what I did was I shut my mouth and I left my guitar back in Florida and I started making trips to Nashville and learning the business end of this business. And I started going from there down to Mississippi and walking them cornfields and them cotton fields, and no one knew who I was. Of course, I was nobody. I was just Jeff Todd. I'm still just small time in a big ocean, in this world of the music business. And I started learning, about the blues. And today, 9, 10 years later, I tell these young kids, I go, man, you don't know a damn thing about the blues. You might be able to play this lick or that lick, but you ain't no bluesman.
Right.
And I learned that Mississippi breed of bluesmen back 10 years ago was 100% different than these commercial blues rockers today.
Well,
and
yeah.
It's very hard to get that through to them, because you can't sit here and say that to another artist who's a phenomenal, award-winning songwriting and guitar playing bluesman that he couldn't sit on the same porch as some of them old-time Mississippi bluesmen. I mean, how do you tell that to them?
I mean, being humble and understanding the history and heritage of the blues, you shouldn't have to tell them. They should know that.
Well, here's the problem that I found out, is that they don't know that because they haven't been down there. Ooh. And when they have, who has been down there? We all know who's been down there many times, from Robert Plant to U2, Bono, Led Zeppelin, Jeff Beck, Pink Floyd. They have been down there, and they come and go quite often to this day. They do. They were influenced by, the Burnsides and the Kimbroughs, which we are very proud to announce that we have Robert Kimbrough on Old Dog Records label. We have a Kimbrough. So, yeah.
That's groovy. So let's talk about your pilgrimage or exodus, so to speak, back to Mississippi, when you decided, or not even decided, when your knowledge and wisdom and feel for the blues immersed, and now you're ready to delve back into this.
Well, it's gonna go back it's gonna go back a good 10 years.
Okay.
When I started feeling that the blues was calling me. Okay, rock and roll wasn't, classic rock wasn't, cover bands wasn't. As far as an artist, I seem to just love the blues personally, and believe it or not, I can hear the blues in many of the people who influenced me in music, which were classic rock and rollers. Now, it wasn't blues artists, that influenced me. It was classic rock. You got to remember, I was there at 2 o'clock in the afternoon when MTV would come on TV. Remember?
When it first started, I do remember.
Okay, it was. But knowing what I know now, and I look at Eric Clapton and Cream and Jeff Beck and Hank Jr. and Bob Seger and the Rolling Stones and the Beach Boys, and I look and see the blues guitar licks and all of that classic rock and roll.
Absolutely.
And so I think it was my journey when I started getting into videography and multimedia production to start looking into the history of the blues. And even to this day, I have my own views on where the blues started, and as far as American roots.
Let's talk about that, because the next thing I want to talk about is that article you wrote that kind of got people hot under the collar. But let's talk about your belief of the start of the blues roots.
Okay. Uh, you are talking about the article that I wrote a couple years ago called "The State of the Blues."
Yeah. Do you want to? Yeah,
Okay.
let's talk about that first, and then we can go into the discussion about the roots of the blues. Go ahead.
Okay. That article was brought about by, because you know I'm a freelance writer too.
Right.
That article was brought about by a artist in Ocala, Florida, who was raising money to go to the IBCs in Memphis. Okay,
Okay.
all right, and I came out because I saw it and I said, wait a minute, these 501c corporations called the Blue Societies are
Right.
supposed to be collecting dues all year long for fundraisers and competition to send the winners to the IBC. All right. If you're raising money outside of your area, which we can all, it's very common to do now because of the
Mm-hmm.
worldwide internet. I go, how come you're not your Blue Society is not doing its job? You're the second or third largest. In fact, you're the second largest Blue Society in Florida, and
Mm.
you ain't got the money to go from Ocala, Florida, to Memphis for a 12-hour trip and a couple days a hotel. That's what you collect money for all year long. And I go, you're a 501c non-for-profit. And then I started looking into the rest of them in America who seem to be just as broke. And I said, well, wait a minute, let's follow the money here, you know. And then I came, it all goes back to Memphis and who makes the money on the IBCs. And then I started looking at the Blues Foundation, which, don't get me wrong, if you've read that article, you see where I tell them my peace of mind, but I also build them up
Right.
on every single one of them.
Right.
Okay? They all have their place. But let me tell you right now, the Blues Hall of Fame ain't the boss. The Blues Societies ain't the boss. And the Blues Foundation ain't the boss. They don't own this rock, and I don't look at them as being the higher figure in the blues. I look at them as being a part of the blues. And
Right.
you put millions of dollars into what you do. But I'm here to tell you right now, when you called me up 2 years ago when I was in Clarksdale, Mississippi, in your backyard, and you said, Jeff Todd, we want to come down to Clarksdale and talk about some of these issues. And I said, can I film the interview? And your exact words were, hell no. And I said, okay, well, my next article is gun rights in America, and I'm done with it. Okay? Then you had something to hide, and I still stand by that today. Okay? I say who makes all the money on this IBC is Memphis, the clubs, the bars, the hotels, and the car rental places,
Right.
and the Blues Foundation. Okay? I don't know now exactly if the winners actually receive money, but they spend a lot of money to get there to compete. And another thing I don't agree with, and most of the people that I talk to, especially the old-time guys,
Right.
they don't play the blues to compete. They play the blues for the love of the blues.
Absolutely.
Okay? That's all there is to it. All of the greats who really made an impact in our life, very few of them, I think, ever competed in the blues competition.
Well, they didn't compete in the blues songs. They may have had friendly competition in guitar playing or whatever, but you can't compete when you perform in the blues because you that's an emotion.
It's the variety of feelings.
Right.
When you're writing a song about a story, or you're writing a song about a story you heard, or an event in the world, you know, you write the chord progression along with the drum beat, you know, then you put the lead guitar. A lot of bluesmen don't play rhythm. A lot of bluesmen are just lead guitar players, and if you watch them, they play in between the vocals.
Exactly.
Okay, all right, and then they pick up a drummer and a keyboard, sax, harmonica, or whatever to hold the rhythm section down. You know, so I mean, that's basically that story, and I am upset with the money behind the blues still to this day. I want to know how come rock and roll and country got a brick and mortar building called the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and the Country Music Hall of Fame before the blues got one.
Right, because there would be no country or rock and roll if it wasn't for the blues.
Can somebody give us a both an amen on that? Okay, that's what. Now there's this big competition over who's the rightful person and what's the real Blues Hall of Fame. Okay, well, you know, I got a problem with Memphis and that Blues Foundation. I mean, you want me to go into it, I'll go into it. If you want to move on, I'll move on.
That's up to you. But I will say I know of someone who runs the Blues Hall of Fame out here in New York, and apparently they're at odds with the Blues Foundation as well.
Exactly, and some good friends of mine are up there, including Gabe and Sally Butterfield. Okay, Paul Butterfield's son. Okay, they're up there, and the problem is that I think everyone needs to work together, and there's my problem with the Blues Foundation, with them wanting to come up with this aura that, well, we're the boss. We're the boss. And you want to build the building in Memphis, which is the home of rock and roll. It ain't the home of the blues.
Well, you know something? Beale Street is important to the Blues Foundation because you had everybody from B.B. King to Howlin' Wolf, W.C. Handy, all these cats, and I'm missing a whole hell of a lot of people.
Yes.
All these cats came through Memphis. Some of them had radio stations where they like what we're doing right now. You know,
we will never ever disagree with that either. Okay, but my opinion is
important to the blues, to music as a whole.
Yes, yes, it is. It's very important. However, I think everyone should unite, if not for the reason of just building a Blues Hall of Fame. Gee, isn't that enough? But until we actually get that work, hey, let me tell you something. If I mess up and find me a backer for $3 or $4 million, I will beat them all. Okay? Because I can get stuff done.
I know. Speaking of getting stuff done, this is the third episode of the series, the third part of the series with Old Dog Records, and we're going to have another part coming up in the next few weeks. Let's talk about two of your big artists, Bill Howlin' Mad Perry and Shy Perry.
Oh, man. Bill Howlin' Mad, let's just say the Perrys. Okay. They are, Lamont, they are the foundation of Old Dog Records. I am putting everything into them, their family, their name, their background, their history, and their future. They are opening the door for this company to be really officially introduced to the world. We're not talking nothing about the past 3, 4, 5 years that I've been in the business. Actually, 13 years or 12 years in the music promotion business and recording business. They're the ones that will take, there's a force and a team behind them that work for me. Okay, but they're the ones that is opening the door for all the other artists that are on our label for worldwide distribution, touring, everything. It's Bill Perry and Shy. We are going to be breaking her next year as an R&B and new blues and soul artist. So,
Okay.
excuse me.
Wait.
But Bill,
I like that term. Hold on. I like that term. New blues. What does that mean?
okay.
Shad mentioned that because I would have asked her, and she would have had to explain that. So explain to me the new. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, because there's not. However, we want the audience to know what the new blues is.
Okay, I remember her commenting on new blues because I was standing just outside the camera range when we were doing that in Abbeville, Mississippi.
Right.
The new blues it's not a musical form, okay? I think what we mean by the new blues is the new audience to the blues, okay? Excuse me. To keep the blues alive, we all got to keep introducing the roots of the blues, the heart and soul of the blues, which is a feeling, to not only the new artists coming up, okay, right, so they can learn to pay homage, okay, but to the new listener. Right. And what country radio has done since Garth Brooks and Hank Williams, well, when Hank Williams Jr. started bringing in Kid Rock and all them, they made...
Kid Rock is the blues in some cases, in most cases, because he's also hip-hop. Also, Everlast, these guys are blues. You don't think so?
Well, exactly. Now, what they did was they introduced and made it okay for crossover. Crossover, okay? And with Shy, to hear her soft voice, it's not a deep growl of a Samantha Fish or a Mabel Staples or it's not even a rock and roll of Alita Ford.
Or Coco Taylor, for that matter.
Or Coco Taylor, or even Aretha, or Tina of rock and roll. It's a mix over. But what you got in Shy's music is Daddy on guitar.
Right.
Which is a gospel bass blues background.
Well, yeah, and from not for nothing, my wife is a huge, as well as myself, but we're huge fans of Shy, and I'd say this much: the blues birthed so many music that watching and listening to both, actually, Bill and Shy, you hear the gospel, you hear the soul, you hear the funk, which all are elements of the blues.
You hear, you hear it, you feel it, and so. But a lot of times, I know a lot of 30-year-olds that are just now learning the blues now, who are 30 years younger than me or 20 years younger than me, that call Led Zeppelin a blues band. Wow. even though they were heavily influenced by the blues. And Robert Plant, by the way, makes frequent trips to not only Holly Springs but Clarksdale, Mississippi. He is still heavily influenced by the blues. But if you look at who was influenced by the blues, the Rolling Stones.
Absolutely. The Beatles. Come on.
The Beatles, the Beach Boys, Bob Seger, Buddy Holly, Jerry Lee Lewis, Bo Diddley, George Thorogood, Stevie Ray Vaughan. Yeah. These are such accomplished musicians.
Yeah.
And they knew automatically where the roots came from.
I mean, if you want to bring it to a contemporary artist, Adele, her biggest hit was a blues 12-bar riff.
Macy Gray.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but Macy Gray, isn't she from the South? She is the blues.
Yeah, I mean, Macy Gray does hip hop, funk, jazz, blues. Mason Gray does, you know, Dr. John, the Allman Brothers, Leonard Skinner, Molly Hatchet. These guys, you know, if you listen to a lot of Billy Joel on piano.
Come on, he played the harmonica. He played the harmonica.
Billy Joel plays harmonica too. Yes, he does.
Piano man.
Okay, you know, harmonica was never a rock and roll instrument until the blues made it a rock and roll instrument.
And well, rock and roll didn't. I mean, you were talking about cats like T-Bone Walker and Chuck Berry. That's rock and roll. But one of the people who popularized the harmonica is one of the founders of soul music, even though he was a kid when soul music became popular, and that's Stevie Wonder.
Oh, yes. And you know who helped Stevie? Was Bob Dylan.
Bob Dylan was a big harmonica dude.
Yes, he was. Acoustic guitar.
And the harmonica, yeah, because the blues is folk music. So
yes, it is.
Yeah. So now with all this being said, so now we have the Perry family, who the Pearly family admires so much, as the forefront, the launching pad for Old Dog Records. Who else is on the lineup?
Okay, well, we got Big T, which is Terry Big T Williams, who is the taken-in child of Big Jack Johnson. Okay, born and raised, both of them, Clarksdale, Mississippi, Delta. Born and raised Delta bluesman. We've got one of the top entertainers in Clarksdale, Mississippi, from Indiana. Okay, Steve Copeland in the Clarksdale Blues Review. I mean, his band bears the name of the home of the blues. Yeah, he does. And the guy spent 10 years writing jokes in Chicago. He was a stand-up comedian before he really got into, you know.
Yeah, well, I mean, a story is a story, whether you tell it with music or not.
That's it. We got Steve Copeland. Of course, we just signed Robert Kimbrough, which we all know the Kimbrough name.
Yeah.
We've got Eileen Martinez, who lives in France, who's really from Houston, Texas.
Wow.
On the label, who will be here in March and April, who will be actually touring with Robert Kimbrough's band.
Wow.
Okay. Yes, and then we got a really good rock band with a blues-based guitar, Dylan Matthews and the Flips out of Orlando, Florida. To hear the band, you're going to say they're not blues, but I challenge you on that. You take away everything but the guitar and just listen to the guitar and tell me you don't hear Stevie Ray Vaughan and Jimi Hendrix.
Well, I'm going to tell you something. Jimi Hendrix is the blues because he was inspired by Hubert, but there's a lot of people that would say that as much as Stevie Ray Vaughan thought he was the blues, he really wasn't.
Well, you know, Stevie stuck to the roots of the blues, but what Stevie did do, Eric Clapton.
Don't get me wrong, he was a phenomenal guitar player. He did things that people still can't do, but being a phenomenal guitar player does not necessarily mean blues.
Exactly. What Stevie did do that was different was he attacked the guitar. He attacked the guitar, and there was never no hesitation with Stevie Ray Vaughan on where he was going, up the neck or down the neck. There's never no hesitation. It's like it was just coming out of him, you know, and that's the thing with Stevie. But Stevie was heavily influenced by major blues artists. So.
Absolutely, because his brother was a guitarist. But I mean, I know. I'm sure you saw it. One of my favorite blues guitarists, Albert King, did a special that they show on PBS every so often with Stevie Ray Vaughan, and that's when I understood why Stevie Ray Vaughan is an exceptional, extraordinary guitarist, but Albert King was a blues musician.
Well,
because I'm not saying that Stevie Ray Vaughan didn't do his thing. Remember, he is an exceptional guitar. This guy was he like Jimi Hendrix. They did things with guitars that most people will never accomplish in several lifetimes.
Exactly.
However, being able to manipulate those chords and frets and do all those tricks is different from being in a groove that just comes from. It doesn't have to be pain. It just has to. You know what I'm saying? And I just watched Albert King do certain things, and it was all based on feel. He didn't overdo. He actually, in some cases, underdid just for the sake of that moment, that feel.
Well, you know who said who coined the phrase "less is more," right?
Who's that?
Paul McCartney did.
He studied a lot of. He was a great guitarist, a great song for that matter.
Paul McCartney's probably one of the greatest songwriters to ever be born in the world. I mean, he did a version of Midnight Special that was he did it live on Saturday Night Live too.
Right.
When he was in New York, when he had met with John Lennon earlier that day, and the rumor was, I don't know if you ever saw the movie. The movie's called What If.
I did see that movie. I actually saw
that
movie in either Atlanta or Virginia. I did.
Everyone needs to own that movie because.
Wow, I thought me and was the only two people on the planet that watched this movie.
I will. That was about what if they had went to Saturday Night Live that night and did that show, and then Yoko Ono was in California, and Paul comes back upstairs, and John Lennon's sitting looking in the corner.
That's
he turns around and walks. He turns around and walks away. Yeah. That movie played a whole lot. I still remember to this day. God Almighty.
Yeah. So now, you named several artists. What is your goal in the blues industry, in the music industry for that matter? But we're preserving blues, and your label is the blues label. Is that safe to say? Yes. So what is your goal? What does it stand? What is it you're looking to do in the blues world?
Have you ever heard of a company out of Chicago called Chess Records?
Come on. Of course.
Old Dog Records wants to be the next Chess Records.
We
know that's big shoes to fill. I ain't trying to fill their shoes. I never will fill their shoes. What they did was phenomenal. We just want to be the next one. We want to have on our label, we want to have the next Robert Crays and Buddy Guys and B.B. Kings. We want for the best of the best talent to want to be on our label, managed by us and booked by us around the world. You asked me a question, that's my answer, that's my goal. I'm shooting for the top. Let me tell you something. Anyone that knows me knows that, I ain't in this part-time. I ain't in this just for a little fling in between vacations. I'm in this for the long run, and we want to be the movers and the shakers in the blues business, and we literally do not care what any of the other record labels out there think.
Well, I'm happy you said that, because I'm sure you know where I'm going with this.
Well, no, I really don't. But it's okay. Let's go on that journey.
All right, good, because that's what this is about. So now there's some heavyweight blues labels out there, and the not so heavyweight that are like a million. What's going to separate you? What does Old Dog's Records have, or what are you doing that's giving you your own lane to compete with the heavy hitters and flush out, not necessarily flush out, but to be able to make a mark amongst all of the blues labels?
Well, the first thing is we have on our label one of today's most recognized faces out of Mississippi, and that's Howlin' Mad Bill Perry.
All right now, Howlin' Mad. I love doing that.
He has a lot of acclamations behind his name, and we're advertising that. We're putting it out there. We are going to be very, very, very busy in 2015 and 2016. Those shows are coming in, and when certain areas are totally booked, and the artist, and we'll be putting them out there. The second thing is that I've got drive and determination and passion to succeed and for this, like nobody else that I personally know in the business. Number three is you're going to have a hard time outsmarting me. Okay? I think today, in today's business, and to compete in today's world, you've got to outsmart your opponent. You have to get up in the morning earlier than they do, and you have to go to bed at night later than they do, and you have to outwork them. And I'm going to outwork every single body out there, and I welcome the competition. And the third thing, the fourth thing is that if I can meet with you one-on-one as an artist, I'm not going to mention their names right now, but in the last 3 months, I have turned down 3 major names in blues to come on this record label.
Okay, wait. I have to stop you. You don't want to name their names? That's fine. I'm with that. Let's talk about why you turned them down.
Okay, the reason why I turned them down is because I got to say this just right.
Good, take your time.
You've done your job. You've carried on the name and the music. Now leave it to me to bring the people to the forefront that you've influenced.
Okay.
Okay?
So,
someone has got to, Lamont Jack, someone's got to put them in the public eye. Someone has to get their music out there. Someone has to teach them, mold them, cradle them, and carry them along. That's just, and here's the crazy thing. Someone has got to keep them in school so they can get an education so the white man don't rip them off. That's gonna be me.
So you're the white man that's going to make sure no other white man rips the black artist off?
Well, black, white, Puerto Rican, Mexican, anything. I'm going to make sure that you've got the business background and education to be able to learn what I'm going to teach you.
Exactly. So,
okay.
So what you're saying is not a color thing. It's a separatist thing. You're making sure the elitists and the corporations don't rape and pillage the culture.
And I'm going to advertise that. Okay? And if I can advertise enough to shake the leaves on the tree to turn the industry around, then by God, I've done my job. Because I made them people who I call bottom feeders come to the top and be legit and do the job right. Okay? Then I've done my job and I'm going to know it. I don't need acclamations or awards for it. If I can do that, then I know that them artists are going to give me whatever they feel that they're going to give me in the future, and I'm fine and dandy. I am let me tell you, you know how I got in this business. It was Bo Diddley who got me in this business.
Let's talk about it. Talk about it.
Okay. It was Bo Diddley who got me in this business, and his wife, Kay McDaniels. Okay. The very first promotion I ever did was in 2002, 2003 Hurricane Relief Concert for Lake County, Florida. And we went after Bo Diddley. to headline it, but he was out in Vegas, and Bo had volunteered his daughter Tammy to headline it. So we brought Tammy down. We formed a band called the Jam Band out of the Jam Inn in Mount Dora to back Tammy up. And later on that night, Tammy's mom was so impressed at the after party that she called me outside and she goes, Jeff, I really love what you did here. She goes, would you like a chance at managing Tammy Diddley? And the first thing I said was, can I use the Diddley name? And she goes, you sure can. Okay. That's her name. And then I go, well, I would love the opportunity. You know, and she goes, but first of all, you got to go to Gainesville and sit down with Bo Diddley and get his okay. And I was like, okay. I had never met a name that big before in my entire life. And here I am going to go to Gainesville, shaking like a little leaf on a tree to meet the father, the grandfather of the beat of rock and roll, the Bo Diddley beat. Bo Diddley himself.
That's right. He was so what's the word I'm looking for? Innovative. He had songs named after him. Early rock and roll.
Well, you know, the Bo Diddley beat.
Remember, back then it was race music, race records.
Yes. But you know, Bo Diddley was one of the 4 or 5 black artists that was welcomed by the white audience. Okay? And Bo Diddley really, even though he's from Mississippi, okay, Tacoma, Mississippi, he left Mississippi at a very young age and went to Chicago, okay, and never really went back. And if you look at B.B. King and the rest of them guys, you know, when they left Mississippi, they never really went back.
No.
You know, they didn't go back. Muddy, you know, the rest of them. But it was Bo Diddley who got me in this business. And bringing it back around to what we were talking about Old Dog Records and what we want to do, Bo Diddley is the one that told me, Jeff, if you want to succeed in the blues business, because I can tell you ain't going rock and roll. I can tell you ain't going country. He goes, if you want to succeed in the blues business, you're going to have to outwork everybody else. And I spent 2 hours in his room with his Rock and Roll Hall of Fame trophies and all them guitars and that Pink Floyd, that big soundboard from Pink Floyd there. And when he called Tammy and her mom in, okay, he goes, you need this man. I give him my okay. I was very honored. And, of course, you know, Bo only lived about 3-4 years later, then he died. But I got that chance with him, and I'll never forget it. And so I'll never forget what he told me and what he taught me. And then Kay McDaniels, his wife, said, Jeff, I produced the Gunslinger and this one and that one. He goes, let me help you in this business. And she goes, let me explain one thing to you right now. If you want to succeed, you take your I'm going to please everybody attitude and leave it outside, and you do it right now. And get that in your head.
Yeah.
Because if you want to succeed in the blues business, 10 years down the road, which has now been 10 years since that day, okay, we just starting to shake a few leaves, rattle a little trees, and get out there. It took that long, and that's how long it just takes. And I have took my bumps and bruises. I've been in the trenches. I've been in the ditches. I've been bad-mouthed. I've been looked up to. I've been praised. And it's starting to come in. It's really now starting to happen. We're seeing the payoff of the hard work. I'm telling you right now, as far as I'm concerned, I got the 2 best blues musicians alive in Mississippi that's marketable right now today, and that's Bill Hallam, Mad Perry, and Big T, Terry Williams. I got them on my label, and I got one of those famous names In all of Hill Country Blues, I got Robert Kimbrough, which some people are going to say, well, that legitimizes you here, and that does this, and that does that. And I go, well, that's what we need, that we're in business. We need that. We can't have a bunch of nobodies and a bunch of cover bands doing Stevie Ray Vaughan and B.B. King all night. You ain't going to go nowhere in this business. I want to succeed. I want to be the #1 blues label in the world.
Okay. So now, what do you offer your artists?
The world.
Okay.
I offer my artists simple, what I call a light contract. Okay? In other words, if we're a small blues label, and most blues labels all started out and are still very small. Rough Records, Blind Pigs, they're still small labels compared to the majors in country and rock and roll. Okay? I tell them, listen, we can do an album, and I mean a top-notch, radio-ready, release commercial album in Mississippi for $1,200 to $1,500. You can't do that in New York. You can't do that in Nashville. You can't do that in Chicago or Seattle or L.A. And you're going to have that real deal Mississippi sound.
So, all right,
okay?
What you're telling me is, even if you have an artist outside of Mississippi, you'll fly them down to Mississippi to make the album.
We will. If we have to put them on a horse and carriage to get them to Mississippi, we will do that. Here's the whole thing now, Lamont. This business is still business, okay? And it's about marketability, okay? If I don't personally feel that I can market you to the best of my ability, then I won't deal with you. Absolutely. And that's what, I don't know how another record label would say it, but that's the only way. And you know, one thing that's gotten me to where I am is people really like me because I'm Jeff Todd. I'm the big villain right now, but I will tell you the way it is. I won't sugarcoat shit, and I'm not gonna. Because let me tell you, if you're young and dumb, you ain't ready for Old Dog Records. Okay, if you're green, you ain't ready for Old Dog Records. If you suck, then you suck. That's all there is to it. That's right. Like a bad recording. Lamont, is a bad recording. It's a bad recording. There's no way. You're a musician. There's no way to make a bad recording good. You got to shine it and do it all over again. And you know what? I went through these growing pains. You went through it as with your multimedia, learning to be a DJ and learning your equipment. It's just something we do, and I will flat out. Hey, when someone don't like me, they don't hesitate 1 second to get their 15 minutes of fame to go on my Facebook pages or whatever and say, Jeff Todd, you suck, or blah, 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 okay? And as someone who does support me, they don't hesitate either. And I think that, you know, for the amount of time we have in this business and money we got available and backers and sponsors, I think you just need to be straight up with people. And I never have been one of them type to sugarcoat anything. Yeah. I've got respect from telling someone, you know, let me tell you something, man, it ain't going to go down that way, or we really like you, or we're not impressed right now. Now, come back when you're ready. Well, you know what? At that time can be long or short too, Lamont.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be, you know. And a lot of times, hey, I'm only human. You know, that don't mean I always see all the talent, but I do look. Here's one thing I do. Is I will watch somebody. I probably get right now 20 to 25 submissions a week for record label deals, and probably 50 submissions a week for management and booking agents. And I will look at them for a good 2 to 3 months. I will always respond to every one of them, usually within 2 to 3 days. And they like that about me. Okay, because here's one thing you can do with me, is you can get into dialogue with me, and you can really talk to me as a person. Okay, not some machine, not some secretary. You can really talk to me,
Right.
all right? And then I will give you that time, because you got to remember, I spent 10, 15 years out there knocking on them doors trying to make it in this business.
Exactly.
Okay?
I know.
So
I'm there with you. So you don't bust people's balls because you know what it feels like. I'm there. I know what that's about.
yeah, exactly. So that's just, where we're at. I'm going to tell you straight up, if I can work with you, if I can do something for you, I feel I got a really good grasp on what the blues fans and the club owners and the talent buyers want out there. And I've been in the business long enough to recognize talent. Okay? And I also know that, let's look at Brooks and Dunn, the country and western group. Okay, they both went to Nashville with big stars as solo artists in Dreams. It was a promoter who said, wait a minute, I think we should take both of you guys and put you together. And now they've been the top duo act in country music for 10, 15 years. So I have a good balance on talent
Right.
and things like that.
Right.
And so I think I can help out. And when an artist talks to me about their dreams, what they want to do, I can really relate to that. And I'll sit there and tell you straight up, man, you know what? Right now, this first tour, you ain't going to make no money, but you're going to learn the business, and you need to do that.
Yeah.
You need to learn it, okay? I know what it's like to have people cancel gigs and play in front of 5 people and have bartenders and talent managers not pay you and flat tires and everything else, and your debit card broke. Believe me, I've been there.
Buy drinks at the venue you performing at.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah. Things we do to share with people some beautiful things. You see that?
We're chasing our dreams, and how do you put a value on that?
Yeah.
I
do. Yeah, you're right. Well, I mean, look, we got to get you back on here, man, because
okay. And my battery's actually, I just got a light here that said, boom, your battery's going dead. I go, oh my God, no, every time we do this.
No, because I mean, it's great, your wealth of wisdom when it comes to the industry. We want to talk some more about Old Dog's records. Actually, the next time we get you on here, we should be talking about your upcoming tour and a couple of other projects that you have going.
Well, we have a big one, a national tour coming up for Bill Perry and Shy together starting in January, and it literally is going to be in all 50 states except maybe Alaska and Hawaii, but we got a real good offer for Hawaii. We got to raise some sponsorship money for Hawaii. Maybe we can use part of the radio broadcast for that sometime.
Yeah, we'll make sure we make it happen.
Yeah. Bill Perry is just going to open the doors for Old Dog Records. We talk probably 2 to 3 times a day. So
that's right there.
And we're working hard. We are tired of seeing these Mississippi bluesmen and Kansas City bluesmen, these guys who need to be living legends. We're tired of seeing them screwed over.
Yeah.
We want them to get paid their rightful due. We want to set them up right with BMI and ASCAP, whoever they choose, so they get their royalties, they get their money. There ain't nothing. There ain't no crooked road here. Okay, there ain't no dealing with the devil right here in the blues. It's straight up. And if you get hooked up with Old Dog Records, we're going to tell you we're going to treat you right. You're going to be right. You're going to learn right. We're going to do it right. And that's all there is to it. And that's the only way it needs to be done.
That's the only way.
It's the only way to do it, man.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Thank you for spending the time and sharing with the good folks what Old Dog Records is and what you're bringing to the table.
Say that one more time.
I said thank you, for taking the time and sharing with the good folks.
Oh, okay.
What bringing to the table.
Well, Lamont, we've got to thank you in talking about the blues for having Shy Perry on, Bill Perry on, me, And we got 2 or 3 more artists we eventually want to get on your program. Anyway, we can support you. Hey, here's a shout out to anyone listening worldwide. You need to get on this guy's radio station. You need to tune in. You need to talk about the blues. The blues is a real big thing in the world. We want to keep the blues alive, and this is the show you need to be on.
I mean, you said it, you heard that, good folks. So we're going to work out that schedule to get everybody else on. You have been tuned in to Talking About the Blues, Google Plus Live Hangout. Yeah, we were streaming live. And don't forget, if you don't do anything else, keep bluesing.
Good night, everybody.